Hey everyone, welcome back to library. Today is Wednesday, May 27th, 2020, and it is almost summertime, and it sure feels like summer outside, doesn't it? I know it's really hot, it's humid, but hopefully you were able to get outside and maybe play in a pool, or maybe play in a sprinkler, or just play with the hose, something to help you keep cool, because I know it's really toasty at my house today. Today we are going to be reading some stories by Shel Silverstein, and we're going to be reading a book by him, and then I'm going to read you some poems by him if we have time. So this story is called A Giraffe and a Half, and if you know anything about Shel Silverstein, you know that he is a poet, and he's written books like A Light in the Attic. He also wrote my favorite children's book, which is The Giving Tree. That's one of my favorite books ever. And he wrote this silly book called A Giraffe and a Half. And see if you can hear some rhyming words in this story. I'm sure you'll be able to hear a few. All right, A Giraffe and a Half. A Giraffe and a Half by Shel Silverstein. If you had a giraffe and he stretched another half, you would have a giraffe and a half. His neck got way taller, so now she can't even touch the ground. If he put on a hat and lived inside a rat, and inside lived a rat, you would have a giraffe and a half with a rat in his hat. If you dressed him in a suit and he looked very cute, you would have a giraffe and a half with a rat in his hat, looking cute in a suit. You hear any rhyming words yet? If you glued a rose to the tip of his nose, you would have a giraffe and a half with a rat in his hat, looking cute in a suit with a rose on his nose. If a bumbly old bee stung him right on the knee, you would have a giraffe and a half with a rat in his hat, looking cute in a suit, with a rose on his nose and a bee on his knee. See the bee here? This is really a tongue twister. Hopefully I don't mess it up too much. If he put on a shoe and then he stepped in some glue, you would have a giraffe and a half with a rat in his hat, looking cute in a suit with a rose on his nose and a bee on his knee and some glue on his shoe. Wow, there's a lot going on here. If you gave him a flute and he played tooty toot, you would have a giraffe and a half with a rat in his hat, looking cute in a suit with a rose on his nose and a bee on his knee and some glue on his shoe, playing toot on a flute. If he used a chair to comb his hair, you would have a giraffe and a half with a rat in his hat, looking cute in a suit with a rose on his nose and a bee on his knee and some glue on his shoe, playing toot on a flute with a chair in his hair. This is getting sillier by the minute. If he tripped on a snake who was eating some cake, you would have a giraffe and a half with a rat in his hat, looking cute in a suit with a rose on his nose and a bee on his knee and some glue on his shoe, playing toot on a flute with a chair in his hair and a snake eating cake. Wow. That crazy giraffe. If he found an old trunk and inside was a skunk, you would have a giraffe and a half with a rat in his hat, looking cute in a suit with a rose on his nose and a bee on his knee and some glue on his shoe, with a chair in his hair and a snake eating cake and a skunk in a trunk. If he met a fat dragon who sat in a wagon, you would have a giraffe and a half with a rat in his hat, looking cute in a suit with a rose on his nose and a bee on his knee and some glue on his shoe, playing toot on a flute with a chair in his hair and a snake eating cake and a skunk in a trunk and a dragon in a wagon. That was a lot in one breath. Oh my gosh. If he jumped on a bike and rode over a spike, you would have a giraffe and a half with a rat in his hat, looking cute in a suit with a rose on his nose and a bee on his knee and some glue on his shoe, playing toot on a flute with a chair in his hair and a snake eating cake and a skunk in a trunk and a dragon in a wagon and a spike in his bike. See the spike? This is so silly. If a blubbery whale got a hold of his tail, you would have a giraffe and a half with a rat in his hat, looking cute in a suit, and a rose in his nose, and a bee on his knee, and some glue on his shoe, playing toot on a flute with a chair in his hair, and a snake eating cake, and a skunk in a trunk, and a dragon in a wagon, and a spike in his bike, and a whale on his tail. Wow. How much more can he get? If he fell in a hole that was dug by a mole, you would have a giraffe and a half with a rat in his hat, looking cute in a suit with a rose on his nose and a bee on his knee, and some glue on his shoe, playing toot on a flute with a chair in his hair, and a snake eating cake, and a skunk in a trunk, and a dragon in a wagon, and a spike in his bike, and a whale on his tail, and a hole with a mole. But if you brought him a pole to climb out of the hole, and the whale left his tail and went for the mail, and he gave the spiked bike to a scout on a hike, and he left the fat dragon because his wagon was sagging. So now he's starting to get rid of stuff. And he gave his chair to a tired old bear, and he traded the flute to a bird for some fruit. And he told that old snake to go jump in a lake. And a man who brought junk bought the trunk with the skunk. Now he's figuring it out. And he gave the rose to a girl he chose, while the bee on his knee flew away with a flea. And he put the shoe with the glue on you, and that silly old rat ran away with his hat. And he put his suit in the laundry chute, and he shrank another half. You would have a giraffe. The end. Wow, that was a really, really funny story, wasn't it? Because first he kept adding all this stuff, and I was like, how much more could he have? And then finally stuff got taken away. So that was smart with the giraffe. All right, we have time for a couple of poems from this book where the sidewalk ends. I picked a few that I thought you guys would like. And don't worry, they're pretty short. They're not as long as that one. This one, I'll show you the picture first. Let's see, can you see that? There's three little guys on there. It's called Ickle Me, Pickle Me, Tickle Me Too. Ickle me, pickle me, tickle me too, went for a ride in a flying shoe. Hooray, what fun! It's time we flew, said Ickle Me, Pickle Me, Tickle Me Too. Ickle was captain and Pickle was crew, and Tickle served coffee and mulligan stew. As higher and higher and higher they flew, Ickle Me, Pickle Me, Tickle Me Too. Ickle me, pickle me, tickle me too, over the sun and beyond the blue. Hold on! Stay in! I hope we do! Cried Ickle Me, Pickle Me, Tickle Me Too. Ickle Me, Pickle Me, Tickle Me Too never returned to a world that they knew, and nobody knows what's happened to dear Ickle Me, Pickle Me, Tickle Me Too. Okay, the next one is called Smart. And this, listen really carefully because this kind of has a funny part. And there's no picture for this one. Smart. My dad gave me $1 bill 'cause I'm his smartest son. And I swapped it for 2 shiny quarters 'cause 2 is more than 1. And then I took the quarters and traded them to Lou For 3 dimes. I guess he didn't know that 3 is more than 2. Just then along came old blind Bates, and just 'cause he can't see, he gave me 4 nickels for my 3 dimes, and 4 is more than 3. And I took the nickels to Hiram Combs down at the seed feed store, and the fool gave me 5 pennies for them, and 5 is more than 4. And I went and showed my dad, and he got red in the cheeks and closed his eyes and shook his head, too proud of me to speak. So he started off with $1, and he ended with 5 pennies. So what do you think is more, $1 or 5 pennies? Yeah, $1 is worth more than 5 pennies. But he thought 5 because 5 is more than 1. That silly kid. All right, the next one, this is a really short one. It's called Invention. You can see the picture of the kid trying to reach for something. I've done it! I've done it! Guess what I've done? Invented a light that plugs into the sun. The sun is bright enough. The bulb is strong enough. But oh, there's only one thing wrong. The cord ain't long enough. So he was trying to plug this cord into the sun. You think it's going to reach? Nope. All right, guys, one more. This is called 1 inch tall, and here's the picture at the top. 1 inch. So 1 inch is like that big. If you were only 1 inch tall, you'd ride a worm to school. A teardrop of a crying ant would be your swimming pool. A crumb of cake would be a feast and last you 7 days at least. A flea would be a frightening beast if you were 1 inch tall. If you were only 1 inch tall, you'd walk beneath the door, and it would take about a month to get down to the store. A bit of fluff would be your bed, you'd swing upon a spider's thread, and wear a thimble on your head if you were 1 inch tall. You'd surf across the kitchen sink upon a stick of gum. You couldn't hug your mama, you'd just have to hug her thumb. You'd run from people's feet in fright. To move a pen would take all night. This poem took 14 years to write, 'cause I'm just 1 inch tall. The end. So I hope you enjoyed that story and these poems from Where the Sidewalk Ends. I love Shel Silverstein. I think he's a great author, and hopefully you like him too. All right, guys, don't forget if you want to choose an activity on the choice board, I put some new choices on there for you. Some of you have been sending me things that you've been doing, and it's fun to see. You can always have your parents email me, or you can email me to tell me what you did this week. All right, I miss you all so much. And I'm sending you a big hug, and hopefully I'll see you again soon. Bye.